twitch.tv/diamondflavor. Today I find out, so finally when I get internet, right? Double check Steam, log in, everything. What do I fucking see? They update Lies of P and they nerf the fuck out of it. Well, not really the fuck out of it, right? But they nerfed it, man. Like, so let's talk about it a little bit. So, to be honest, most of these are like whatever. But the big one are the boss nerfs, right? We'll go through them one by one. So balance changes. Field monster balance changes. Decrease the HP of certain field monsters, increase the chance of breaking some monster stance and the frequency of stagger, increase the staggerable window time. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really notice crazy levels of or crazy tankiness from the field monsters unless you're counting some of the super elites. But other than that, like if it's regular mobs, maybe some of the what do you call it? Maybe some of the zombie ones are kind of problematic. The big chunkier boys, so that's kind of okay. Staggerable window time is like, you know, I would still relate that to the animation lock. That's why it's so hard to get in stagger sometimes. But overall, you know, it's okay. Like not too crazy about it, but not too crazy about it either way. So it doesn't really matter. Next, decrease the HP of all 3 types of dimensional butterflies. Yeah, you know what? It's whatever. Like they're a cute gimmick. You know, they're a bit annoying to hunt down here and there, depending on where they spawn, depending on the mobs beside them. You know, they have one teleports, one just runs away, and then the third one kind of has its own AOE blast. That's like, yeah, whatever. So yeah, I don't really care about this one too much either. I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. It's a bit nicer, you know, since we can kill them a bit faster and we get the stuff. But that doesn't really matter because the next one is they adjusted the rewards for some monsters. So we increased the drop rate of moonstone type items, so that's the upgrade material. Decreased the drop rate of star fragments, that's whatever, that's for the summons, you know. That's not my playstyle, so it doesn't really affect me. But you do get a lot of it during the game, so it's like whatever. Increase the drop rate of ergo items. I don't know if they mean like the actual, like the soul clusters, you know, the ergo chunks. I feel like you get a good rate, honestly, especially if you spec into it. So not too bad, but you know, maybe some people are kind of feeling a little bit of a pinch. I didn't feel that way, but you know. And then the last one is increase the ergo rewards of certain monsters that appear after Lorenzini Arcade. So maybe it's because at that point in the game, when you reach Lorenzini Arcade, there's a bit of a spike in just the quality of monsters in general. And when I say quality, I mean like HP. They're a little bit tankier. Maybe they do a bit more damage. There's more of them. They have more gimmicks to them, or more what do you call it? Different kind of attack types. So maybe that's what they mean. So you know I kind of understand this one, so that's fine. Increasing the ergo rewards to match the increase in level or difficulty or whatever you want to call it. It's not by much, but there is an increase. So it's a bit noticeable as well, especially if you haven't been paying attention. Weird mix up there. You haven't been paying attention to your build and your stats at that point. You will feel a bit of a pinch there. So that's fine. But the big one that I am not happy about at all, and this is coming from someone, I don't consider myself a good Souls-like player by any means. Like I've said, I've only played 3 Souls-like games, and I've only finished 1. My first ever was Bloodborne, didn't finish that. Played Sekiro, didn't finish that. Played Code Vein, finished that. So, and I plan to finish all the FromSoft games, by the way, once I get around to that part. Hopefully you guys are subscribed or you follow my Twitch to see my prog on that. Little plug there. But anyways, so I'm definitely not experienced as a Souls player. I maybe consider myself at best average, maybe a little bit below average, like actually. But maybe if I can get the flow of it, I get to an average state, right? So, but I'm able to play the game. It takes me a while, but I was able to beat Archbishop Andreas, decrease HP, so that this guy was a little bit of a bitch. I think the date I still had the most trouble with him, or I spent the longest time fighting him. Decreased HP of King of Puppets in the first phase. Honestly, first phase, like the second phase is the harder one because of the way Romeo moves, right? and the skill set and everything like that. So I don't really know why you had to decrease the first phase King of Puppets. I feel like it was okay. Decrease the HP of Simon. This one's the one that pissed me off the most because so I'm basically not gonna be able to beat the last boss at vanilla, right? Because again, going back to my fucking internet service provider problem the last few days, I've had no internet. I couldn't stream. I could have played the game, you know, offline, but obviously I'm streaming, so I want to make content out of it, or at least, you know, capture the footage, right, for people to see. The 1 or 2 viewers that watch me other than my friends, right? So I couldn't play it, and then just seeing the news today, I think the patch dropped today. So just kind of honestly took a bit of the hype and excitement I felt for finally beating my first playthrough. Kind of lowered it a bit. I'm finding out a way to roll back the update. I don't even know if I think that's allowed, right? It should be. I don't think it's breaking TOS or any weird rules like that. So yeah, I'm figuring out a way to get the game files from the previous patch, or before the patch dropped rather, so that I can fight him vanilla. Yeah, because they decrease his HP, they decrease his damage, and then they increase the chance to break stance. So these feel like pretty significant nerfs to the final boss of the game, and I don't want that, you know. And again, I'm saying that as a below average to average Souls-like player, you know. So I definitely had a hard time with this game, more so than I've seen other people. You know, it takes me like anywhere from an hour to 3 hours to beat certain bosses, so that's pretty bad, right? It's a lot of deaths, but it feels good though. It feels good when you figure it out and you get over that hump. I guess that's the point of these games, right? That's the big appeal to them. And I would have rather that, like here, the next line, increase the Spectre's HP and damage. This should have been enough to combat all this, like whatever difficulty people were feeling with the bosses. I feel like increasing the Spectre's HP and damage, you know, that's why they're there. And you know, I'm not one of those people who shames people for the way they play. If you're having a hard time, use whatever tools you need to beat the game, man. That's whatever's fun to you, whatever helps you, like go ahead. But again, that's what I mean. Like the tools are available, and if they did have to like nerf or buff stuff, I wish that they buff the tools instead. Like maybe the throwables, the consumables, buff them more. Yeah, you buff the Spectre, the summoning, that's nice. Maybe you buff some of the weapons, some of the weapon types. I don't know. I just don't like it when you nerf bosses, because we have no choice but to engage that boss in that state. Like there's no way for us to change the way that boss is, right? Compared to if you buff items, for example, at least we can pick what items to bring, and that helps us adjust the difficulty to our liking. In this case, I mean, you can kind of make the argument like, oh, then why don't you just fight the boss with, I don't know, like an unleveled weapon or something like that? You know, you can go whatever, but the point is, I just feel like it's better to give us the tools to use and explore and combine to figure out solutions to beat the bosses, rather than nerfing the bosses themselves. And saying all this, you know, I also say this with, look, I don't think that Lies of P is a perfect game, right? As it stands now, maybe as I'm about to finish the game, I think I'm still sitting on maybe an 8.5 total rating for the game. I think it's a great game. I think it could have been greater, but that has to do with more of the mechanics and the gameplay design and philosophy that they have. I'll do a full like thoughts and review of it to really, you know, I have to write it down and really think about what I want to say. It's hard for me to do it off the cuff right now. But overall, TLDR, my initial like impression of this is, it sucks that they nerfed some of the hardest bosses here, like except for Laxasia, you know, didn't really touch her, but yeah, it just sucks. But yeah, I am finding out a way to roll back the game to vanilla patch, but other stuff is like system changes. These are all more like technical stuff, I guess. Added the features, reset the character's level, Pure and Legion armor, set the goal. Oh, that's pretty nice, yeah. So you can get to a respec. So this is a good change. Characters created after this patch will now receive 8 gold coin fruits instead of 5 for their first harvest. Like that's whatever. You know, I don't really use gold coin fruits. To be honest, it's one of the game systems that I feel is super inconsequential to the game. The whole cube thing, harvesting the gold coin fruits feels silly, having to wait and all that stuff. So it's whatever. Adjusted the required amount of gold coins to reset the character's level, P Organ, and Legion arms. So yeah, you know, it's all fine. I'm having a option to reset. That's okay. Additional changes. Players will now be able to carry more weight for each point spent on capacity. This might be okay. I'll have to check out what the difference is. I haven't really seen it myself. But yeah, you know, maybe increasing it by 1 or 2 points per point spent on capacity might help alleviate a little bit of the weight pressure that you feel. But honestly, like, I'm still okay with it. I think I'm at 23 capacity right now. I'm actually using a dex builder. I'm using a dex scaling, but I'm playing it like a strength build, and I feel fine. Obviously, I haven't been able to like get some of the liners to get those better armor stats, right? Because they're heavier, but that's a trade-off, right? That's the point. You're not supposed to have everything. You're supposed to make the best with what you have. So I don't know how to feel about this yet, but it might be good, you know. But this one, decrease the weight of amulets that can be purchased with boss ergo. So you already increased the weight that you can carry for each point of capacity. I don't know why you had to decrease the weight of amulets. Especially the boss ones, right? Because that's the other trade-off that you need. Because the boss amulets are pretty powerful, to be honest. Like, I have the one that gives you increased damage when you do a perfect guard, perfect parry. And then I also have the every time you make an attack, your next attack has more damage, or is more powerful, right? So yeah, those are pretty significant amulets. They have pretty significant power bonuses. So I don't really know why they had to decrease the weight of them. Like, that should be the trade-off, right? Being able to slot them in. And now I feel like with doing these at the same time, capacity and decreased weight of amulets, it just makes it makes the cost way less to spec into these powerful items. So that feels like a major buff to in general to players. And yeah, it takes away the trade-off, right? And I don't agree with that. I feel like powerful items should have appropriate trade-offs. You can't have everything, you know, especially in games like this where it's about mixing and matching all the different things and finding a way to make everything work with all the downsides and the costs that all the things have. So not a fan of this one. Players will now be able to land attacks better when they use Fable arts that consume 3 or more slots. I don't know how this works. Players will now be able to land attacks. Like, what does that mean? Did they change the animation? Because the only reason why it's difficult to land attacks is depending on the animation and the length of your weapon. So the effective range that you have when you do an attack, right? So if you have those shorter weapons, you have to get in a lot closer to the enemies to land those even regular attacks, right? So including Fable attacks as well. So I don't know what really this means. I'll have to like double check and see like how is that in practice actually. So we'll see about that. And then successfully performing the Fable art guard parry will now break the monster stance. So I think this is fine, you know, because the Fable art guard parry is actually a bit tricky to land since you have to consider the Fable button unless you you map it more efficiently or more properly to the way you handle your controller or your keyboard. But in my experience, it's been a bit difficult to actually land the guard parry as a Fable art compared to perfect parries, like regular perfect parries, right? So having this reward, I think, is, I guess, fine because it is a bit of high risk play if you miss, right? It's a pretty heavy punish. But we'll see though, because as far as I remember, guard parries are what, 1 Fable slot, so they might be like it might be way too easy to cheese a boss now that you can do every time you do a Fable art guard parry, it breaks the monster stance automatically. So we'll have to see how that works. Other than that though, it's like new features, bug fixes, you know, and this is like controller settings, right? So all of these I don't really care about. It's just this one, really. I really wish that this patch would have been more easy to bear or accept if it wasn't for these big boss monster balance changes. To be fair though, the first 2 decrease HP, it's like I'd rather it's not there, but it's not the biggest thing. But it's this one. You decrease the HP of the final boss, you decrease the damage, and you make him easier to stagger or break the stance. So way too much nerfs, I think. the final boss. And you know, the final boss is supposed to be like the pinnacle boss, right? Usually, I mean, that's what I would assume. Obviously, there are times when bosses in between that you fight would be more difficult than the final boss, but still, like, triple nerfs, man. Triple nerfs to the final boss just feels really bad. So I don't know. It's a bit of a waste, you know, knowing that you spend so many, like here, yeah, like I said, you can see the progress I've made, right? Lies of P. So oops. But I've only posted a few videos right now, so I'm working on like doing all the uploads. But yeah, it was such a fun time. Obviously, there were times where I was like, you know, getting a bit pissed and everything, trying to learn the fights and trying to figure out how to make it work. But that's part of the fun, I feel like. So this, like, for example, the first boss here, I struggled so much. And it's because I sucked, you know. To be honest, this boss wasn't necessarily that difficult, and there are so many times where I choked on the last like percent of life here. So it's definitely doable. Like, see, I was about to beat him, and then I just choked the fuck out. It's like what, my first try or something. So, and that's, yeah, again, it's coming from a non-veteran. I'm not a veteran player by any means. I'm, you know, I consider myself fairly still a beginner in these games, right? It's just maybe I understand patterns, and maybe my reaction time is nice. And I used to play guitar, so that helps with like the way I like my actual finger dexterity, right? When I play with the controller. But I still had to learn so many things, like timings and, you know, the delay. I mean, problems with this game, you know, with the delay attacks, the attack animations. Again, I'll get to that with in time, right? When I do my full review. But yeah, it's just so sad, man. And then when we go back to Fallen Archbishop here, yeah, you could see where was it? Yeah, I died to this boss like it was what, 2 hours? Oh, sorry, it took me like 2 hours pretty much to beat him. 2 hours and 15 minutes. If you go from like 2 hours here and then 4:15 here until I got the final kill, right? So yeah, I mean, yeah, it just sucks. Like, to know that you were able to really learn the fights, you know, and get better over time. It's just kind of sad that a little bit of the thunder has been taken away. And you know, I know it's just a game. I'm not like, it's not the end of the world. I might be drama, what do you call it? Dramatizing it more than it is. And obviously it's just fresh, right? At the end of the day, it's just a game. It's whatever. But still, it just sucks being in it, getting the news and everything when you know you were close to beating the game vanilla. But I mean, hopefully though, the one good side is maybe more people get to play the game. You know, the game has its flaws. Again, it's not perfect, but I think this is definitely a game worth playing, worth giving your money. And I think if they make improvements to whatever, well, I'll give my critique, right? And maybe people will, maybe they'll agree, maybe they won't agree. I don't really know, but I'll still give my take on it. And if they change some of their design philosophy and, you know, animation timings and things like that, I feel like this could be an amazing game. Like, it could be even greater than what it is right now. But yeah, that's all. Rant over. It's just, yeah, you know, sad, slightly sad, but whatever. We'll make do.